Welcome everyone. I am Fahim and today I am going to show you something different. Today I am going to show you 10 creative ways to display data in Python. As you are learning Python with me, so we can experiment with Python and see what different things we can do based on that much knowledge we currently have. So I promise this would be interesting and you can show off your this skill in many ways and impress your friends and dear ones too. All right. So let's go to our code. So the first one, I'm going to use a file name like this way1.py, but maybe that's not a good idea because you are learning that we shouldn't keep any spaces between the file name. So I can use like this way1. All right. So the first way is the basic print function, or you can say the basic print statement. And this is the most fundamental way to print variables in Python using the simple print function. All right. So let's say I'm going to declare a variable. Let's say I'm going to name it something like number of apples equal to 10. All right. And then if I want to print it, I can simply use this, the all and only basic print function. That's it. And if I simply run it, here's the output. So there goes our way 1. All right. So let's move on to way 2. Way 2.py. Now we are going to learn if strings. If strings is kind of formatted string. Let me write it down for you. If string. And we call it formatted string. Why is that? I would show you all of them. Don't worry about that. If strings allow you to embed expressions inside string literals, including variables also. So let's say I'm going to use my previous example to show you how it actually differs in application. All right. So number of apples, let's say 10 again. And let's say I want to print something like this. I have 10 apples right now. So earlier, what we used to do like this. I have, then a comma, and then, the comma would be outside, number of apples, and then if we want to concat the string, then we provide the rest of the sentences. All right, like this. But there are some hassle, as you can see, right? For example, if I want to provide rest of the sentences which is apples right now, I can use string concatenation, or I can use separate statement, but that is troublesome for us. So in those scenario, we can simply use f string, formatted strings. All right. So how can we do that? That's the question, right? So this is very simple. We use the all and only print statement, but we are going to make some changes here. Let's see how we can do that. First of all, whenever we want to use f string, we have to use f beforehand, a small f. Make sure that you are using this. Then we would directly use double quote. And in this double quote, we are going to write down our statement or string. So for example, here it would be I have, and then I have a space, and now I need to display the amount, number of apples variable has. So whenever we want to display any variable's value, we don't write that outside of the double quote, we write that inside of the double quote, but we use double bracket, or you can say curly braces, and in that curly braces we specify the variable name. For now, here the variable name would be number of apples. So I have number of apples, and then the rest of the part of this string, that would be apples right now. Apples right now. And let's see whether it works or not. Voila, it's working, right? So you have learned how you can use formatted strings in Python. Now let's go to our third way. So way 3.py, right? In the third way, we are going to learn string concatenation. By using string concatenation, we can combine strings and variables using the plus operator. All right. So obviously, still I am going to use the earlier example so that I can show you step by step how and in which way they are different in their application, of course. All right. So number of apples equal to 10. So let's say I want to display the earlier thing, that is I have 10 apples right now, but this time I'm going to use string concatenation. So you see, if I want to print it in a single statement, obviously there are other ways to do so, like I have just showed you in the second way, that is f string, right? But we are going to learn it differently. We are going to learn how string concatenation work. So for applying the string concatenation procedure, we can divide this entire string in different parts. For example, the first part would be like this, I have, and the second part would be like this, the value for number of apples, and the third and you can say the last part of it could be this thing, apples right now. So we have divided this entire string, this is a single string, but we have divided this single string into 3 different strings, right? Now if we want to merge all of them, we have to use a string concatenation here. So how we can do that? That's pretty simple. We simply use the plus operator. All right, so this would be like this. We are going to use the all and one simple print statement, but this time this would be like this. So the first part, we don't need to provide any value of any variable, so I can simply use this directly, and I can add a single space here, or I can add a space before this number of apples variable. But for the simplicity, I can simply give an space here and then plus, and the variable name here will be number of apples, right? You see that whenever I am using the variable name, I don't give any quotation, right? So I think you are already familiar if you are watching my videos. Then a plus to indicate that I want to apply string concatenation, and then I have to provide the third parts here like this. And as I want a space after printing the values of number of variables, this space, you see this space, so I can simply add an extra space before this third part. That's it. If I simply run it, you see that instead of printing the string, it is giving me an error. Why is that? Let me tell you that. Don't worry about it. Whenever we are working on a string concatenation, make sure that you keep in mind that you can't work with other data types. All of them you are using in string concatenation, they have to be string. And if you are using different data types, for example, here number of apples is not string, right? This is an integer data types variable. So in that case, it won't be displayed, because we are applying string concatenation, where we are concatenation application works only with string. As this is not string, so what we can do, we have to use typecasting and change this integer to string. How you can do that? Pretty simple. Simply wrap the different data types in a bracket and add str before that. It would make sure that the value this variable has is getting converted to string during the print statement. All right. Now, if I simply run this code, you see it's working. So that's how it goes. But if, for example, let's say you have any variable that is already string, you don't need to apply string casting. I mean, you don't need to apply any casting there, because that is already in string. But if you have any data you want to apply, I mean, you want to use in the string concatenation process that is not string, that is different than string, let's say integer, let's say float or double, let's say any other thing. In that case, you have to convert that specific part into a string like this casting. All right. So there goes our third way. And let's go to our fourth way. In this fourth way, we are going to learn string and representation. We can convert variables to string representations using string and representation, repr function. All right. So let's say I have number of apples. This time also the value is 10. Now I am going to show you the two processes as we are wanting to print something. So we have to use the print statement, or you can say print function. So firstly, I will show you how we can use the string function here. All right. So let's say I am simply writing it. I am using string function, and then what I can do, I can use the string concatenation again like earlier, and then what I need to do, I need to wrap it up with a string segment so that it indicates that I am casting it from integer to string, what I just showed you earlier. So it works. And let's try exactly this thing using the representation function. All right. So I can simply change it from str to repr. That's it. It works like this. And now let's work for the fifth way. So this would be way 5.py. And in the fifth way, we are going to use if double quotation string formatting. So we can use string formatting technique using the if double quote syntax. So let me give you an example first. So let's say here I'm going to use a variable named my underscore name, and it has my value in double quote because this is a string. And then it has also a variable named my age, and it contains my age 25. So you see that this variable is a string, but this my age variable is an integer. So we can use the f string formatting technique using the all and only print function. So as we are going to use the f string function, so we have to use a if and a double quote. But the interesting part is that in this double quote, we can use any type of formatting we want because we have already called it if string formatting. So it doesn't matter whether you are using slash or you are using any special character or something like that, because it won't impact in the print statement negatively, because all of the things we are going to do here in this double quote are going to become the part of an individual string. So let's say how we can do that. So let's say I can simply use like this, my name is, and I can use the curly braces to indicate that I want to display the value of any variable. For example, here I'm going to use my name variable. So my name is dash. I mean, my name is my name's value, right? And I'm using a full stop, and I can simply use my age. Sorry, my age is, again curly braces, my age. All right. So if I simply run it, it's working. And if I use different things, like for example, you already know that we can't use double quote or slash directly here, but we can also do that. But you have to keep in mind that there are some limitations here as well. For example, if I use double quote here, then this print statement gets confused that it's starting with double quote, so it would also end with double quote, right? But if we use these double quotes as the part of the string, then it gets confused, like in which portion it need to terminate the statement. So we can simply use this formatted string to print any kind of formatted text we want. So this is a good way to do it, but it also uses the f string formatting. All right. So there goes our fifth way, but this is kind of similar like the second way I have already demonstrated. All right, let's go to the next way, that is way 6.py. And here we are going to use the formatting with the percent style. So we are going to use the percentage operator. We normally call that modulus operator in programming, but whatever you can call it, whatever you want. We can format strings using the percent operator. Percentage operator, for this way I am going to tell it percentage operator because I'm not going to get any remainder, so I'm not going to call it modulus as well, but if you want you can do that. So let's say I'm going to create a variable named name equal to Bob. Bob is a person, and then I'm going to give him a age and age also. So let's say Bob is 35 years old. Or if you are Bob, don't take it seriously because this is only for showing you how it works. I am not using this name thinking any of the important thing or something like that. Don't take it seriously. So I can simply use a normal print statement, but in that print statement, some magic is going to happen. So for example, if we want to state string, let me show you. If we want to state string, we can use percentage to specify that this is a string. If I want to specify any integer operator's value, then we can use this %d. If you are familiar with C programming language, then this is pretty common to you, because in C we have to use the identifier like this, but in Python we can also use this to format our string with style. So let's say how we can do that. So I can simply use double quote, because print function needs double quote or single quote. Here we are going with double quote. So name colon, and here we have to provide the data type. So I want this Bob thing to print here, and this is string, so I can specify percentage like this. And then let's say I'm going with a comma, and then I'm going to write age, and this would be an integer, so %d like this. And I have already formatted the string, right? But now I need to provide the exact value. For example, it might be possible that I have multiple string variables here, and it also might be possible that I have multiple integer data types value here or something else. So I need to specify exactly which type of string variables value it needs to place here. All right. So what we can do after finishing everything, that means we have completed writing our formatted string. Now I need to specify exactly which variables value is going to go there, right? So we can use, we have to use a % again, and this time we have to use first bracket, and we need to specify the exact variable's name. And keep in mind that the sequence is important. The variable's value would get applied here exactly in which sequence we are providing them here. All right, so the first one should get the value from name variable, so name. And the second one, this %d, this integer value, should be appeared from this variable age, so I am writing age here. That's it. Now if I simply run this, you see it's working. So keep in mind that the order is also important. For example, let me show you. If I simply shuffle the order, age and name, and run it, you see it's giving me an error. Why is that? Because it's trying to get the string value from age variable, but age variable doesn't contain any string value. It contains an integer value, that is 35. So, and the same thing is happening here as well. This % is trying to get an integer value from the name variable, but we have already seen that the name variable doesn't contain an integer value. It contains string value. So there it gets mismatch and it gets confused, so therefore we are getting error. So don't do that. Make sure that the variables data type and variables names are also aligning, and their order is also aligning as well. For example, let's say if I have multiple integer variables, and if I also want to print multiple integer, that's fine. But if I give them wrong order, then the answer, the output's value would get in the wrong direction. Exactly in that order I have provided them here. So make sure that you don't do any mistake like that. All right, so there goes our way 6. Now it's time for our way 7, way7.py. In this 7th way, we are going to use the template string. We can create templates for variable substitution using the string.template class. So as we are going to use a module, or you can say a function that is already implemented in Python beforehand, so we need to import something. So firstly, we need to import the template module, or you can say the template class, and that specific template class is residing within here, string.template. So if I want to import that, I have to use this from string. Sorry, this string would be lowercase. From string, we are going to import the template class. So import template. All right, we have imported template, and now we can use it in our code. All right, so let's say I'm going to create a variable. Let's say I'm going to name it name, and name would be something like Eva. Okay, and nope, let's change the name to Eve. And let's say I'm going to create another variable named age, and I'm going to give it age 50. Sorry, Eve, but as usual, this is not intentional. I am simply showing it for the study purpose. Don't take it seriously. And then let's say I'm going to create a template. Let's say I'm going to name it something like template, but make sure that you are not using the same template here, because that would not suffice our purpose. We are going to, let's say you are going to create a different template. So if I want to store that in that original template, then that doesn't work. So why I am using this, as Python is also a case sensitive language, and you see that I have started with I have started this with smaller t, but the original template contains capital T, so they are different. But you can use different name also, but make sure that you are not using the same name as the class name. That won't work for us. All right, so template equal to, now I am using the template class, so I am calling the template, this template, and then I'm going to provide the format, exactly in which format I want this template to work, right? So I can simply use a bracket, and then I have to provide the template like name colon, and then here we have to use the dollar symbol like we normally use in PHP. If you are familiar with PHP, then you should know it, but if you are not, don't worry, we are going to learn this here. So name should get the value from the name variable like this, and then let's say I want a comma, and then I want to print age, and age should print the value, and the value should come from this variable age. All right, so there goes that. We have already finished writing our template like this, and let's say after that we want to print the result. So let's say I'm simply going to create a variable named result, but you can use any other variable name you want, but make sure that you are not using the exact class name, this template here, because that won't suffice our need, right? So the result, what should the result thing do? The result should call the template, which template we have just created right now, and then it should substitute the value, I mean substitute the variable's name with our variable's name, so that it gets the value from our variable and it can write that into the template. All right, so template.substitute, and now we have to give it exactly which variable we need to pass here, right? So for example, let's say the first variable is name, so I'm writing name, and it should get the value from where? From name. So name, and I need to do the same thing here as well. Age should get the value from this age, right? So there goes that, and now I can simply print the result, and if I simply run it, you see it's working. Now we need to see exactly which variable is going where, like is this the same variable as this or this? So for that we can simply change the variable name to see exactly how they are working. So I can simply change this name to say custom underscore name, and I can do the same thing here as well, custom underscore age. All right, now you see the difference, right? So the first variable name is the variable name we are using in the template, right? And in the second name should come exactly like we are using in our code, not in the template. So this, I mean, this name variable indicates the name variable we have in our template, and this variable name should be identical we are using in our code. So this would be custom name, and this would be custom age, right? Let's try to run it. You see, it's working exactly. All right, so there goes our way 7, but there are more interesting way to modify it. Let me show you a very simple thing. You see that here we are importing the template class, and the class name is quite long, template. So whenever we are going to create different template, we need to write the full form of the class template, and in some cases that might be pretty troublesome if that class name is very long. So we can short the class name to use in our case. So how we can do that? I can simply comment everything from here, and I can write it again, and let me show you how it actually works. So you see that I have imported the template class from string, but this time I'm going to make some changes. What are those? All right, so I can say that, hey, you have imported the template class from string, that's cool, but we are going to rename this template class into something different. So let's say I am going to do that like this. We use that like this as TP, let's say TP, or you can say, let's say I'm going to make it something like this, capital TP. So it indicates that you have imported the template class from string, that's fine, but for this code we are going to call that template class as TP. So whenever I am writing capital T capital P, it indicates this template class, nothing else. So in the same manner, now you can't use this exact template class in any other variable name, and you can't also use this custom made name that we have selected for this template class into any other variable name, because that would confuse Python, like exactly which TP they're supposed to work on. Is there any differences? Like Python would get confused, like, hey, should I work on any different TP named variable, or should I work on the exact template class? So we can't do that, right? So let's say I can simply call this TP, and this would simply call template itself, because this is the template class, but for this simplicity we are changing it to something different, only the name, nothing else. All right, so the performance and the other things are also the same. So if I simply run this, you see that the output is exactly the same. So there goes our way 7. Now we can go to our way 8. So way 8.py. This time we are going to learn logging with the logging module. We can utilize the Python logging module for structured variable output. All right, so in that case we have to use the logging thing. And obviously if you want to import different things, you can do that. If you want to change the name to something else, you can do that using s, but we are not going to worry about that. And then we have to call the logging, and we are going to use the basic config function. All right, and then I have to provide the level. The level would be something like logging.info. all right, and let's say I'm going to write a variable name, and let me give it something like green. The name, I mean the value of name is green, and let me give it an age like 30, and let's say I will use logging.info. all right, logging.info, and here I am going to pass the attributes, not attributes, you can say the thing what I want it to print. So I can simply use name, and here I have to use the percent operator. So name is a string, so we have to use percentage, and let's say I'm going to use an comma, and age is integer, right? So we can use %d. If you don't have any idea how are these things working, percentage and %d, then I have already told you about this in maybe way 6 or way 5. Make sure to check them out in this video as well. So now I need to provide the variables name, because it needs to know exactly which variables value are going to go there. All right, so obviously the order is also important. So name, this string value should come from the name variable, and this integer value should come from the age variable. And if I simply run this, you see it's working. Now let's go to way 9, way9.py. Now we are going to print to a file. So we can redirect the printed output to a specific file. All right, so if I want to write anything in a file, we have to use this with open, and now I have to specify the file name, exactly where I want it to print. So we are going to print in a text file. That normally goes well with this kind of thing. So let's say I'm going to name it something like output.txt. Make sure that you are giving it a file extension, because that is also important. And then I have to specify the mode, in which mode I want the file handler to work on. So let's say I want to write something in it, and if I want to write something, I have to provide w. W indicates that I want to write something, and as file, that's it. And let's say I'm going to give it a name, something like my name Fahim, and let's say I'm going to declare a variable named age, and I'm going to give it an age of me, let's say 25. And then if I want to print something, I have to use print and if and double quote, and now I need to provide exactly which thing I want to print. I can simply use the curly braces to provide the variable's name so that it gets the value from there. And let's say age would be something like this, age. And then after this I have to specify file equal file, so it would get the file thing and it would write that in the file. So if I simply run this code, it should create a file named output.txt and it should print this value in that specific output.txt file. Let me try it now. So if I simply run this, you see that instantly it creates a file named output.txt, and in that file I'm getting the output I should have got. So there goes our way 9. Now for the last part, and that is way 10.py, like this. So we are going to work on custom printing function. So we can define our custom function for more control over variable printing. This might seem kind of advanced, but don't worry, this is a very simple thing. We can learn it very quickly. Actually, I'm going to give you a short overview because I can't make this video any more longer, right? So let's say I am going to create a variable. Let's say I am going to give the variable name as custom printing. You can give it any name you want, and this variable has this function has two different parameters. All right, so name and age. All right, and what it does, it simply prints something. So I can simply use the f string here as well. So let's say it would print something like name, and I can use the curly braces as well, name, and then let's say age, and sorry, curly braces age. And you see that I am using the parameter name as the variable name here, because whenever I am going to call this function outside of this function, I would provide the value, and those variables value would come here, and they would assign here as well. So that's how it actually works. All right. Make sure that you are using the same variable name, because whenever I'm going to call this custom printing function outside of this function, I'm going to pass two values here because I want two different values here. And the first value would be string, the second value, let's say integer. Those values would come here and those would get assigned with this. All right, so that's how it actually works. So let's say I have got outside of this function. How you get outside of this function? You start with the initial thing, initial position, right? So let's say you can create different name, but if you want, you can keep the same name if you want. So let's say I'm going to use different name, my name equal to, let's say, Fahim, and let's say I'm going to create another variable outside of this function, my age, let's say 25. And if I want to call this function, I can simply use the function name, and in this bracket I have to simply pass the variable. So the first variable would go from my name and the second variable would go from my age. And if I simply run it, you see it's working perfectly. So that's how you work with function. So there goes our today's session. We have learned 10 different ways to print in Python. I hope this would be helpful in your case. If it does, then let me know and I'll see you later.